to you to your favorite program, News Magazine, with me, Ribad Ibrahim, and my sister and colleague,
Abna Safo.
Abna, today is quite a very good day.
Yes,
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
Yes, and I'm told it rained quite torrentially in certain parts of the
Yes, it did.
country.
Yeah.
In parts of Accra, it even rained. Yeah, so the weather is really good, and we hope that all Ghanaians will be as productive as we all wish. There's news buzz, as of course the story that has to do with our maintenance culture as a country because of the incident that happened at the Accra Mall here in the capital metropolis. And we'll discuss that as part of the trending news. But today, we'll continue our discussion. We would have two elderly guests to discuss the model that is cut for purpose for the Republic of Ghana. And the last time we discussed the variety of international models for preschool education. So what is best for us? We speak to the proprietress or principal of Troy Montessori School and also former director of Ghana Education Service, Madam Nancy Elpo. You just can't afford to not be a part of this program. Those stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Abna, what do you have for us by way of trending news?
Well, as usual, I got a lot of packed ones for everybody. But before I start, I have a quote from this, Nelson Mandela today. Nelson Mandela says, "Tough times are hard. Tough times are times that do not last forever, but tough people last in a lifetime." So this is my quote for the Friday. To take us through the weekend, and I'll quickly take you to Ghana Web. This is from Ghana Web. First Lady calls for more effort to end child marriages.
This is quite a contentious debate. According to our laws, a young lady cannot engage in sexual activities until you are 16 or 18. I'm not really sure. But then in certain parts of the country, in order to safeguard the integrity of a family, because teenage girls sometimes do not know how to control their libido because of the cultural setup we have here in the Republic of Ghana. So some would want to give them out in marriage as early as possible. So at age 14, some are given out in marriage, and even less than 14 when they are betrothed to elderly people. So human rights issues come to play because at that tender age, can the girl make that decision? Or someone is foisting the decision on her? But then, Abna, I am a conservative. I believe in, I'm a conservative. I believe in the fact that we shouldn't lose sight of our identity as Africans. They say you should go to school. Our sisters should go to school. By the time you go through high school, then get a first degree, a master's degree, and maybe a PhD, you would have hit your mid-20s. Only God knows, by then you would have been sexually active, maybe from the age of 20. So the very core values that undergird marriage, starting off on a clean sheet, with the man not knowing the woman and all the issues of virginity and all that. For that one, we marry without even thinking about that because chances are very slim. And so much as I'm not a proponent of the fact that girls should be given out in marriage too early, to safeguard our cultural values, our conservative values as a society. When you are a parent and you realize your girl child in her teens is becoming too attracted to boys, it is always best to safeguard the reputation of the family, to let her marry someone she loves. I'll give you a classical example. A man and his wife were livid that somebody was seeing their daughter in high school, and she was less than 20. And so they came complaining. Why would the man be going to her? They were in love anyway. So he wanted something to be done. You can't report an issue of love to the police. The police doesn't prosecute or charge people based upon amorous relation, because for as long as the underlying factor in our law is that it is consensual. So the man and the young lady agreed that they would be seeing each other.
Well, I think you're talking in terms of agreement between the two, but we have cases that, parents are it's only its parents who actually force them into that marriage. The children are not aware. So I think
that
the First Lady is actually talking about this.
If it is forced marriage, then you would have a point. But then if the young lady is 18, she's 19, she's seen someone she loves.
Yeah, if it's a mutual understanding, well, of course, we'll take it from we'll leave
some
it.
Some parents to put hurdles on the way of starting up a very, virtuous family. Because marriages should be easy.
Yeah.
Before you get married, there's a tall list you are given. Some young men even go to access loans for their weddings. Yeah. So you start off indebted, knowing so well that very soon you'll be paying for preschool astronomically, and therefore you start off on a shaky foundation, so to speak. So in the case of that man, finally, they were advised that since they were in love, get them married in a very traditional way, without the pomp and pageantry. And the man could still be passing by to see her. When she was ready after school, then they could do the wedding. Okay. I think this is fair play.
Yeah, I think that's
so therefore, I would urge parents, no matter how much you treasure your daughter, it is better when you dignify her when she lives with one man as a husband, rather than this idea of she has to achieve this, has to achieve it. Then she keeps hopping from one man to another. It's an African, and it's not part of our culture. So let's make marriages quite easy for young people.
Okay. Away from that, this is from City News. I'm disturbed by Accra Mall ceiling collapsing accident. That's from Nana Addo, our president.
Social media makes it easy to make a mountain out of a molehill. Yeah. You remember in Italy, not too long ago, it rained heavily and a whole, bridge was wiped out. Some casualties were suffered. Yeah. As we speak right now, there is a tornado or a hurricane in the U.S. state of Florida, and the repercussions are quite far-reaching. So some of these issues, even though go to the heart of our maintenance culture as a country, I think we could just let this go. But because the incident of Malcolm some few years ago is still fresh on our minds, then people are scared that such structures could cave in on them. But the mall is about 11 years now. So we would encourage state authorities and also private investors that have got shops in the mall to take quality assurance issues serious. You don't only make profit, make sure you and the people who come to shop there are safe as well. But for me,
there should be regular supervision to see if structures are well structured, and if there are collapsing or cracks around, and check that out. We do shoddy work. This is human life that we are playing with.
The mall was built as a result of a partnership between us and our partners in South Africa. And so therefore, I'm tempted to believe maybe we invested in, high-quality concrete. We invested in high-quality iron rods. Maybe we invested in high-quality whatever in terms of building materials. But then some contractors do shoddy jobs.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
about
to say.
So therefore, I believe right from the construction level, right from the get-go, we shouldn't compromise on quality. After that, there should be regular checks as a form of maintenance so that we keep people safe.
Moving to another one. This is from BBC. Uganda landslides kills more than 30. This is another star story.
Okay, this is an act of nature. Landslides, hurricanes, earthquakes. They happen every once in a while. And we wish the Ugandan people the very best. And then we commiserate with them in such hard times.
Okay, this is from Peace FM. Media Commission to launch religious and non-religious guidelines to sanitize airwaves.
You see,
what's this Media Commission people really doing? I'm not really seeing
the content of media houses is a true reflection of the values and principles of the society. Look, we are a very religious country. Even though we have in our constitution that the Republic of Ghana is a secular state. That means we can't use one religion as overarching religion and source of legislation for the country. But then, in our daily activities, we are religious people. So therefore, if you tuned into GBC, GTV in the 90s, you would see wholesome products and programs programs talking about children being courteous and respectful, programs talking about the culture of reading. But today, the best programs on TV are programs that have to do with dancing and singing. A nation whose stars are singers and dancers is not a serious nation. We should hype people that are helping in the areas of manufacture, the areas of industry, and the areas of hard work as a country. And so therefore, yes, on that level, I believe such programs that are so artificial and creating an impression Ghana is like the US. If the US has got enough to go around and it can do American Idol, it doesn't mean you should waste your time doing musical shows. And so therefore, I believe, yes, entertainment is part of this industry because you are meant to inform, educate, and entertain. But when entertainment overshadows education, then we are in for trouble. And again, the content should be wholesome. Showing pornographic material in the dead of the night, it even took some scrupulous and conscientious citizens to call for the cancellation of that. So therefore, let's not lose our values. Advertising condoms, alcohol, and programs that are meant to be for only married couples are programs we talk about. It's not normal to have sex before marriage. Look, it's not normal to have sex before marriage. Whether you do it or not, it's not normal. It's not normal. It is not in keeping with our culture. And so to sit on TV or on radio, Obadana or Nigeria, some of the titles they give, and these are at variance with our culture. So therefore, I agree with the National Media Commission that we need to do something to sanitize the airwaves.
Definitely. Away from that, our last news for today, a Chinese restaurant under investigation for charging $58,000 for dinner. Oh. Wow. What ingredients is used for preparing this
if you dinner? Can't eat at Kempinski, get some backyard or backdoor chop bar and eat. If you want to eat at Movenpick, know how much you're going to pay for eating there. So therefore, this is a very funny story. I don't blame the Chinese restaurant. People are not forced into restaurants. They go in there willingly. So therefore, if you can afford and you can buy, why not? In some parts of the world, you can see a simple artwork that can go for $1 million. Maybe you would want a carpenter to design the same thing for you. Life is full of choices, and where you eat is a matter of a personal choice. And I don't think any government should force the hand of a restaurant to charge less.
Definitely. Okay, that'll be all for our trending news for today. I'll take a leave of Irbad. I'll be back with comments from our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Abna Safa is my colleague. Pretty shortly, she'll join us after the interview segment to read some of your messages. Keep your messages coming. When you look at the crawler, you can see our WhatsApp line. If you have comments, questions, and any views you would want to share on this platform, those comments are welcomed. We'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, I sit with Madam Nancy Yelpo and the proprietress of Troy Montessori School. Do stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, and today we're going to hold a very important discussion. It's always a privilege when you sit with mothers, so to speak. And we've discussed a variety of models that work for preschool education, the creative model, the high scope model, the Montessori model. And today we ask, is it that some of these schools only use the name Montessori, only considering it as an opportunity to christen with an exotic name, or they understand that Montessori is a model in preschool education? You can also go to kantankatv.com, and the Bank of Ghana continues to allay the fears of depositors that the 5 collapsed or merged banks are still being investigated. So there's no need for fear and panic. Keep your comments coming on our WhatsApp line 0242 817 239. We have to my immediate right former Director of Ghana Education Service, Madam Nancy Yelpo. Ma'am, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And then she's in the company of Madam Mary Ajima Osei, proprietress of Troy Montessori School. Madam, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll start with you because we have the best of two worlds. Formerly, you were in charge of the regulation, so to speak, and we have a classical example of a Montessori school. And the word Montessori, it was somebody's name. Is it that it is chic or fashionable to use, or it means something? That is why preschools are christened Montessori?
Well, in life, most of the schools or names people use are very significant to them. But as time withers on, then it becomes a normal language. So Montessori was supposed to be sort of a special environment that takes holistic education of the child, spiritually, socially, everything. But as time goes on, people just use it for the sake of it. And so the best to ask are the proprietors, why do you prefer Montessori to a daycare or to a KG? They have reasons. Maybe they admire what was done in the Montessori schools before, or the people who started it, and for that reason, they want to keep to that. So once we have somebody by us, they say when you have a snake lying down, you don't use a rope to measure. You just measure the snake. So we hope he's going to tell us why he decides to label it Montessori and not a KG.
And for so long, you were an administrator in the educational sector. Can you help our viewers understand daycare, nursery, kindergarten? What's the difference?
At first, it was all put together, but we use ages. Daycare normally is from 3 months, maybe to about 2 years. Now, KG is supposed to be 4 years to 6 years to prepare you for another school. But now it depends on what the proprietor wants. Some take the 3 months, some say no, 3 months can hold. They prefer 6 months because of the labor involved. She's going to tell us that there's a lot involved in daycare. And so people do not want really to do daycare. They prefer to do the KG so that it's easier to manage.
So what about nursery? Where does it fall?
Nursery, for example, if you take the 2 years, between the 2 and the 4, you are nursing the child. It's nursery. But like I'm saying, they are used interchangeably. Because either the people don't understand or they just take that they are mere words. But the age is the duration that really should put demarcation between the various ages and the levels and why.
Madam, is Troy a daycare school, a nursery school, or a KG school? Drawing from the definition that has been given by Madam Nancy.
You know, when we were young, all preschools were termed as daycare centers, taking care of the very young ones. Hitherto, education started at primary 1. So any child below the age of, say, 6, before he enters primary 1, was taken to the daycare center when and where at home there was no relation to take care of the very young ones. So I remember when I was young, we were taken to the, should I say, preschool or daycare centers to be taking care of mothers. They are the surrogate mothers in place of our real mothers who went to the farm or to their various places of work. So now we term it Early Development Center. And the early development centers take care of the young ones before they enter primary school. And then a policy came that we should include the 4 years. Then kindergarten starts from there. Before kindergarten, we have the nursery, we have the crèche. Crèche.
You've introduced another word, crèche.
Crèche is from, say, 3 months, 4 months, mothers who are working after maternity leave, they don't have a place to keep their children. So they are taken to the crèche to be taken care of by able
So crèche you would reckon is the same as daycare?
Daycare begins from crèche to the time the child enters primary school. And now we have categorized it. Say crèche, taking care of, say, 4 months to a year or 2.5, then the child enters nursery. In some schools, they have nursery 1, nursery 2. From there, that is, he has crossed the age of 3, going to KG1, KG2. KG1 normally begins with 4-year children, and then 5 years KG2, then they proceed to.
So what do you do at, okay, please.
So that's why I was trying to explain that with time, they have to change their terminologies. And so now we prefer to use early childhood development, because we are finding it difficult to demarcate where do you start with a crèche, where do you start with a nursery, and where do you start with a KG. But with the policy, we started with KG because we take data from 8-4. It's compulsory. When we go out to collect data, we take data from KG 8-4. If you have it, we have full details on the website of the Ministry of Education for us. But the nursery and the crèche normally are left with the schools.
Okay. I'll go back to Madam and come back to you. So,
the KG1 and the KG2 especially,
yes,
came into being when the, should I say, government or the GES wanted to incorporate the preschool to the primary school. It has come to reduce the number of years for the basic school. Hitherto, class 1 was the beginning class age for the class for the children. But because of KG, the children learn basic things before they enter class 1, where they were supposed to have taken these lessons.
So Troy Montessori, ma'am, did you just feel, okay, oh, Montessori sounds really nice, so we would just, you know, name the school that way? Or what deliberation went into it? And does it represent the model you use in school?
As you rightly said, it's somebody's name. And that person used some methods of educating the children. And that method involves a lot of materials. You leave the children to explore. So when you are set the children to work, they use a lot of materials to construct, to build, and to find out a lot of things by themselves. We have the Frobel method. It's also somebody's name. That is the normal school classroom work. But with the Montessori type, I mean, materials involved in teaching and learning is so huge. And we leave the children to find out a lot for themselves. Unlike where a class teacher stands before the children and gives lectures. At this time, with the Montessori type, we leave them to explore for themselves.
Mommy, okay, Madam Nancy Elpo, those times maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when the missionaries came, things were done differently. In terms of the educational development of the child at that formative age, leaving the person with a long group to do self-help and experimentation, how does it help the person grow into a smarter, you know, student in future?
Well, those days, like you said, 40 years ago, the Christians came along with some kind of preschool education. For example, in the Catholic and the Presbyterian system, we had what was known as Sunday school system. It still exists, if my memory serves me right. Those were supposed to take care of lapses that could not operate in the houses. So in the house, you taught the child how to sweep, how to wash bowls, that kind of thing. But when you go to the Sunday school, it was virtually a preschool. They were teaching you how to read, how to sing in another form. It took a different form. So they really prepared us for it. But the question I always ask is, how widespread was it? How widespread was it? How many people had that advantage? How many people could use it? So that's why eventually it was formalized into a preschool. And then we decided to label it like St. Valentine. There's a reason why we have St. Valentine. Now, St. Valentine's Day is a different thing. And the Montessori too. You need to go in to read to find out the behavior of St. Valentine or Montessori, why that thing was instituted. And I said it was to bring up a holistic child. So we had our own informal way of nursery, and now we have formalized it.
Okay. We did a little feature on Troy Montessori, which was quite a privileged school we selected. I'll let you can roll the pics so that you pass commentary.
Really, when we locate such children, we
do you quarantine them? Do you give them, you know, timeouts?
Sometimes you see a teacher, a child by the teacher's side. It means he's being troublesome. Such a person is always kept close to the teacher's side so that you can control the child by not bullying others.
Nancy, I'm not a psychologist, but children at that tender age, they can just slap elderly people, they can pinch you, they can spit in your face. What accounts for that? Is it that congenially we are born to behave that way? We need to be straightened up. The other time you came, you said, spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yes. Some people are born by nature, like you said, they are rough. But then spitting into people's faces, you have to control them. It, like I was saying, it depends on the background. If a child stays in a background where he feels controlled when he comes out, he feels like doing anything. So it's from day one. The background, if you see a child spitting into your face or pinching you, you have to think first about the background within which the child lived. Because he might think it's the normal thing to pinch people. He might think it's the normal thing to spit. So it tells you, whoever is watching or the teacher, that that child has a problem from the background. And so spanking, like I said, it's not everybody. There are some of them. If you don't spank them, they will not listen. There are some of them you dare not. But if you do that to the introvert, he just recoils like a snail. So that's why it's difficult for preschool. You have to know whom you are dealing with. The background of the child is important to the proprietor and the teachers. And so sometimes it helps you to help the child out if you know the background. Don't put everybody into a bag like a maze. Every child should be identified. These are your qualities. This is your strengths, your weaknesses. This is likely to be from your background. And you can do a bit of investigation and find out. Especially children who live from divided homes, like when there's a break in the marriage. It affects the child no matter what. That's something we shouldn't encourage, and they think Christians are being fussy about it. It affects the life of the child and the community he goes to live in. So like she's saying, the teacher must be very observant. Nursery is a very difficult place to control. But we take things as normal issues.
Quite practically, Madam Agyemang Osei, children who are from rich backgrounds are naturally naughty, and they don't care whose ox is God. They do whatever they like. How do you deal with such kids? And for all you know, it is their parents that bring the big bucks to keep you afloat. Any preferential treatment?
We don't give preferential treatment to any child. They are all equal. Children normally are all born the same. It's only the environment that brings about changes. We don't look at faces. We don't look at your money. After all, everybody is paying. If you are not paying, it is me who have given you that concession. But everybody is paying. If it's 10 cedis, each parent is paying 10 cedis. So there's no need. And I've always been also telling my teachers that don't wait for someone to, do I say tip you before you take particular attention to the child. The work that we are doing, I tell them, whatever you do for God. We are not working on our own. The Bible says, whatever work your hand finds doing, do it as you are doing unto the Lord. He is the unseen guest at every place. Whatever you do to a child, the Lord sees it. Don't please me. Nobody is pleasing me. Oftentimes, I'm outside, but work continues as I am present. I don't feel anyone is working to please anybody. We are all pleasing God. So what you do to child A, the same should be done to child B. And we are training the children in such a way that they will never be found wanting when they leave school or they go elsewhere.
We will go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, last week we had an international educationist who raised concerns with the fact that there isn't ample security and monitoring for the children. So on the blind side of proprietaries at Troy, how do we keep the kids safe? Stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Back. And today we are discussing what model is best for preschool education in the Republic of Ghana. And the motive behind this program is not to be a talk show. It goes beyond that. We'll exhaust all the opportunities available to draw the attention of policymakers to some of the deficiencies within the Ghanaian system so that we can proffer lasting solutions to them. Keep your messages coming. And pretty shortly, Abena will read them. And the WhatsApp line to use is 0242 817 239. Madam Nancy Elpo, would it be necessary to install surveillance cameras everywhere? Because people do what you inspect and not what you expect. And women generally can be very violent when they are treating some other person's kids and no one is watching.
Well, if you have the money, you will do it. But when we are having talk shows like this, you think of the greater population. If I set up a Montessori or a nursery or a preschool, maybe I have the love for it, I have funds adequately up to a point. Will you be able to put on these cameras? It's an issue of the economic situation where we find ourselves now. So it might serve the purpose, but for how many? I keep insisting for how many? The best is to see how we can help the larger generation. If she has money to put on a camera, so be it. And that will help administration. But how many schools can do it? So it's better we try to tell parents to groom yourselves that bringing up a child is not like an animal having fowls and somebody throwing food. So you have to watch your own children. And like us, right from school when they come home, you have to follow up and see their developmental trends. Other than that, it gets to a point you start asking, is that my child? Is that my blood? It's the way you handle the child. And we said it's the environment, the lawyers say, it's the environment that corrupts. Everybody is born with a tabula rasa, but the environment changes you out into something. So parents should watch the children. It's not enough just to throw the child into a school because you have money. And remember, even from one parent, 3 children are completely at variance. They are very different. And you don't know why. So the thing is, keep learning from them, learning from the experts, discovering who your child is, and seeing how you can help the teacher out to straighten the child.
I don't want to push you to the wall. Does Troy have fitted surveillance cameras?
Actually, we don't have. But we are not here to discuss the Bible. But that's my faith. So I don't think it will be
because you were sounding all anointing before the break, telling the facilitators God was watching and all. But human beings can really misbehave sometimes.
Yeah. But if you put your trust in him, he's more than able to do it all.
Okay.
Like the cameras, what not we are talking about. Yeah. The Bible says the watchman watches in vain without the Lord. And even the builder builds in vain. And for me, it's one of my watchwords. He says, it's not very expedient. You're waking up early, doing your job, everything is okay. But those the Lord wills, he gives it to them even while they are yet asleep. For me, the Lord has ever been our best security. Okay. He takes care whilst we are sleeping. Okay. I was teaching at Adabaraka. One day I was going to school at the loom. I got there and there was a pandemonium over there. I asked, the watchman or the security there had been tied and killed and the place looted. And I said, hey, this confirms the fact that if the Lord, except the Lord watches, even in the presence of the watchman, he couldn't do anything. and everything was carried. But if you put your faith in the Lord, he does it whilst you are not even aware.
But the security and welfare of children who can't change their diapers, some who even can't communicate, I was spanked, their security is at stake. Yeah. Does it suffice to say because God is hanging up there,
no,
he will take care of everything? No. At a human, mundane level, yeah, what precautionary measures should a school like yours take?
We have the teachers. We speak with them. We attend calls. Sometimes I invite people to come and talk to them. Okay. We have counseling. And if you are mistreating somebody's child, think of your own. I always say that whatever thing I did to other people's children, the Lord turned them manifolds to my children. I never hired a teacher for my child. But what I did to other people's children weighs so much. So the Lord also turned to my children and he did them good. I tell them, I say, be watchful. Whatever thing you are doing, nobody is watching. As for me, with my faith, I cannot leave it behind. And I think it seeps through the teachers. We have people who take care of their cleaning. We have others who feed them. They all do their job, keeping God in mind.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. I'll come back to you, Madam Nancy Elpo. When Anis Hafa, who is an educationist, was here, he said when parents take their kids to a preschool setting, the first things to inspect will be the canteen, the cafeteria, where food is served and how it is prepared, the pantry. And then number two, the loo, just as Madam has pointed out. For Troy, we didn't have access to those facilities, but we would reckon that they're in good shape. So what should be done to make sure that places of convenience are in good shape and then the canteen is also in a good shape?
I've always said monitoring is a very important activity in the educational sector. People have the tendency to do wrong. But when you monitor, you guide them and help them not to perpetuate wrongdoing. So there should be people, either the private association, there's people who monitor these private schools. Remember, they are the majority. They must come up with people who will monitor these schools and see if the loo is good, if the food is good. In community setting, if these things are not taken care of, you easily have a pandemonium when they break out. For example, like if there's an infection, it's a school, everybody goes with it. Diarrhea runs through all of them. So there are cardinal points of a good educational institution. But somebody must monitor to know they are there. Let's just take yesterday what happened to that child in school. I hope you saw it. Now, training should be a cardinal point of every institution. Madam is supposed to make sure that his teachers are regularly trained, they are given pep talks, they are watched, because a teacher cannot do that. And if you have a teacher that has not gone through training, you haven't counseled the teacher, she's quoting left and right from the Bible. But there are some people from the Bible, you know the characters that you need to monitor and talk to them. Because the tendency for a natural human being is to do wrong. It's part of what the psychology says, so you watch that. So training should be very good. In-service training should be compulsory and very regular, even if it is timely. So that the raw ones you bring in, you train them. If the person is not trained, remember most of them have hidden agenda. They look so angry. Because I don't know how homework would have resulted in that amount of beating. There's an inbuilt anger that was being exposed on the child. And so this is where proprietors are to watch. You train them, you look at the child, the teacher. Once the teacher gets angry, he becomes a different character. Okay. And you should know all these things.
We'll shortly go for a final break so that Abena comes with the social interactive segment. But I'll ask you this final question. Madam makes a very good point about retraining, even while on the job. Is there any institution that trains people to take care of kids at that level? For higher levels, we know there are teacher training colleges. Or you just call Mami Isi, you are my cousin. Amma, you are my niece, let's go start a Montessori school?
We have, first of all, we have Early Childhood Development Center training at Kanda, NTTC, teacher, can I get the name right?
Okay.
A nursery teacher training center at Kanda. Before you pick any teacher, at least you should have this basic level of training.
So they are certified at that level. The person has to go through that particular institution.
For me, if you even go there, I need certain skills from you. So when people come to me, personally, I take them through training. We need to. And with the Montessori too, we have lots of centers or places they do take these courses. That's special to teaching. We have. Apart from that, my teachers, at least 2 are now graduates. They've gone through at Cape Coast. And I want quality work. Okay. So I see to also, and I myself, what I know, I do teach them because I need to take care of individual children.
Okay. Okay. On that note, we go for our final commercial break. When we come back, Abena read some of your comments, and our guests will graciously tackle them. Stick and stay with us. Welcome back. And we are now joined by my sister and colleague, Abena Safa. Abena, you're welcome.
Thank you.
What do you have by way of social media interaction?
Yeah, we've received a lot of messages from our audience. The first, well, this one actually leads us to our first question. How do we encourage student-driven model in our educational system?
Child-driven model at that time. So I don't know whether it boils down to what you said, leaving the kids to experiment.
At this stage, in fact, a lot come from the teachers and the parents. In anything, the input that you put in brings the demand or the outcome.
Okay.
And children at this level, in fact, they learn a lot. From
Okay, so Madam Nancy, in 30 seconds.
They learn a lot, but you have to give them the opportunity. The child is the focus and the center of the educational system, be it crèche, nursery, at any level. So you allow the child to experiment and to exploit. Okay. And then you sort of follow and see what the child is doing, then you try to correct the child. You don't come in doing the talking most of the time. Okay. Watching is very important.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Abena.
Another message from Tamale. This is from Abdul from Tamale. I think we should also look at the details of the curriculum and its impact on society. Then another one.
No, this is also very important. I even wanted to ask this question. Thank you, Abena, for that one. Troy uses its own curriculum. Then maybe other Montessori schools. Is there an across-board, directive from social welfare or the GES as to what you teach the child at every step of the way? In every step of the way.
GES, as I know, have a common model we use. This was at the time of one lady.
Professor Ajamai.
No. She was in charge of the preschool.
Okay, at the ministry.
At the ministry.
Okay.
She brought some revised model, and that was what we were all using for KG1, KG2.
Okay. Do you have something like that? Or everybody decides, I'll use the American model, I'll use materials from the UK?
Yeah, you can want to use anymore, but as a matter of policy, the education is supposed to put in the system a model for them to follow as a guide. They can then decide to modify it, but as a matter of policy, if it's education across board, you give them a policy and a model to follow.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Abena.
Okay, this is from Fatin Senior from Kaswa. I think the Ghana education system should be up and doing, because I don't really see their impact in promoting preschool education or pre-education.
Okay, that's a comment. Then the next one.
And the next one, And the next one, aside teachers, I feel parents should also take the role in training their kids very well. This is from Anchi from Kumasi.
Okay, for example, are there times that a woman who is close by can come and actually breastfeed a child in your school?
Mothers who bring their children at that level don't have time. That's why some of them express, sometimes we put in the refrigerator and at a certain time, but we don't experience this very often.
It's not something that is common.
I served my mother's breast for 2 years. So me, I didn't go to school early. That's why I developed very well.
You didn't go to school early.
Yeah, but so that's what I keep saying, that parents should really put an eye on the child, because to cut the breast off in less than a year, it's not good for the health of the child.
Frankly
speaking. It's not healthy.
But you know,
but the circumstances, like I said,
because
putting
feeding the nipples, knitting at the nipples of your mother is not like getting it from a feeding bottle. So aren't we depriving these, little ones of the things we all enjoyed a few decades ago when we were all born?
We are, but circumstances of the situation.
What is circumstance,
the economy, like I have to work to pay the other school fees, and you want now paternity leave. So with the maternity leave, instead of adding your leave to ours, you want yours. And so I have to go away after 3 or 4 months. So that child must be taken care by somebody, whether it's good or right, because I need that extra money. So maybe you include our increase.
No, but what I think is that for every couple, open a fund before you get your first baby. So for the first 5 years of your child's life, your wife should be at home taking care of your child.
If you can afford it.
Yeah, you should plan. Okay, Abena.
Okay. I really commend kids teachers because they are really going through hell. This is from Anoche, from Asen Masu. And the next question is, the next comment, I really applaud the idea behind the show. Daniel from Winneba. My greetings to the very wonderful mothers in our studio. Kansanka TV is really doing well. Good job. And our last one is a birthday wish to Mr. Emmanuel Ayi from Medina. Happy birthday to Emmanuel. That would be all for our social media segment for today.
Okay.
And I would say we really appreciate your comments. Keep them coming. And we also stream live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday on Facebook. Thank you very much.
Okay, Abena, thank you so much, Abena. In closing, you can see I couldn't hide my feelings about this thing because, yes. In closing, what would be your recommendations or pieces of advice in closing? Where do we move from here? We've discussed the problems there are. How do we solve them?
If you are doing something, do it well. Put everything into it, heart and soul, and do it well. Like I said the last time, if we do not have preschools, the world will run and leave us behind. We have to join them. Then let us learn to have the heart to do it well, to benefit the child and benefit the society in the future. So if you are setting up a preschool, make sure it's well done. The facilities are there. Train the teachers, retrain them, do monitoring, and make sure the right thing is done. You just don't set up a school because you have the money or you have space in your compound. And so people come there, and it's like job as usual. Training the child up to 6 years can never be job as usual. Never. Because we are setting the country back.
Okay. Madam, your final remarks.
You know, the private sector, our work is entirely somehow different from the public sector. When I was a head teacher at the public school, I did my best. But your best can, a teacher can also sabotage you somehow. Imagine you are inspecting somebody's work. Before you, he does everything fine. But in her own time in the classroom, he does things the way he wants. You report the person and nothing is done because sometimes he even knows a higher person and the thing is settled. But with the private school, who are you going to report to? You yourself, the proprietor or the head teacher, you are the sole person who is to see to the management, to everything in the school, so that it also raises the image of your school. So the private work is entirely somehow different, and it also depends on the environment. Like there's someone here who set up a mushroom school. You go to a certain school, the place is set up fine, and you will do just anything. Nobody will
patronize.
Yeah, so.
And this show is brought to you by a very dedicated team of producers, Efirie, Shasha, Obobi, Ikuya, Rhoda, Nicholas, Charles, Kofi, and a host of others. And thank you so much for making time. Madam Nancy Yelpo, former director, Ghana Education Service.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, good to have you again. And then Madam Mary Ajiman Osei, proprietress, Troy Montessori School. Thank you so much for making time. So we come your way next time. Stay blessed and keep watching Kantanka TV. Have a good